Hello and welcome. My name is Melanie Vasquez with Lucky Black Cat Literacy, and today I'm going to be walking you through one of the lessons in my first bundle that I have available on Teachers Pay Teachers. Currently, I have two. The two bundles encompass about 55, 56 lessons. This summer, 2022, I'm working on completing the third bundle, which will take us up to about 76 lessons. The scope and sequence that I'm using is available for you to view either on the as on the preview page of the lessons of the bundles on Teachers Pay Teachers, or I'm happy to send you a copy of the scope and sequence. If you've purchased the lessons, thank you. If you're still on the fence, hopefully this explanation will help guide you as to whether or not you believe these lessons might be a great resource for you. They have been a great resource for me. I've been working with students with dyslexia for about 8 years. And prior to that, I taught first grade for 7 years. So the number one thing I can say is this explanation of all slides included in a lesson Google slide deck will give you the most information. You will read about what you can expect from the lessons, how to get started, materials that you will need, which you really shouldn't need much beyond what I provide you with. A link to the reading practice pages. These are the pages that students will you'll print out and students will have with them. There's a reading practice page that goes with each lesson. This link takes you to the lesson plans and instructional routines for the teacher, links for each of the lessons. And currently, if you click on one of the links, it's going to take you to a page where you will be asked to make a copy of the lesson. Then the following slides will give you a little bit more detailed information about all the different slides that could possibly show up in one of the lessons. So it's important to read through. The nice thing is that there's, in my opinion, a lot of flexibility with these digital lessons. You can tweak them to fit your particular needs, but it's just all really good stuff, in my opinion. So, quite a bit of information here, but will really give you a firm grasp of what you can expect in each of the lessons. So today, my main purpose was to take one of the lessons and go through it, just giving you ideas on how I use it. So I am going to be looking at lesson 15 in the scope. It's lesson for H equals. The lessons all begin with this type of screen. And then right away, we dive into phonemic awareness. Here, you're able to pull in whatever phonemic awareness resource that you love. It doesn't have to be the ones that I use. I personally use Equipped for Reading Success, 1 Minute Activities by David Kilpatrick. And I intertwine that sometimes with Heggerty. What you see on this screen is the letters that correlate to the levels in the Equipped for Reading Success book. I print this sheet out. Each one of my students has their own copy in their binder so that at all times they know what level they're working on. This particular slide has a 2 minute timer up at the top because I choose for my students to work on training phonemic awareness for 2 minutes. when I say training, I mean that this is a level that they do not have automaticity with. So they are likely still using perhaps some type of manipulative, whether it be Elkonin boxes, some type of 3D tokens. They might be clapping or tapping. They might be using the hand motions from Hegarty, but they're still training at this level. The next slide is designated to 1 minute activity. So the timer is for 1 minute. And here we're working on a level that they already have, they have an understanding of the level, and they're basically just developing that skill and practicing to reach automaticity at whatever level they may be working on at the time. The nice thing about these two slides is that you don't have to keep them at the beginning of the lesson if you feel that you prefer to do phonemic awareness and end the lesson with that. You simply slide these slides down to the bottom. If you want to do more than 1 minute, then you can just duplicate the slide and add it in wherever you would like to. The next slides that we will see in a lesson are always focused on irregular words. So I talk to my students a lot about irregular words having a part that is irregular, not even necessarily that the whole word is irregular, but usually one or two sounds. And they're all in a red border because we also use scientific spelling, and we have a red section that are for red words. Sometimes they're called heart words or, irregular words. I use those terms interchangeably with my students. The I've chosen an order of irregular words, but if you want to change that, then that's something that's really easy to do with these digital lessons. So if you're not familiar with how to do an introductory with your students on analyzing irregular words, I do provide one in the lesson plans, or you can do a Google search for different ideas and ways to introduce and analyze an irregular word with your students. So that's what you're looking at here. Many times I will try to include some type of mnemonic with an irregular word. In this case, this lesson has a mnemonic for come. So, can ostriches meet elephants? And many students find that very useful. And then we do a quick review of the regular words that we have already analyzed and taken through a process. And these are words that we just want to do a quick review. The card deck is also a review slide. So here I'm clicking to bring in a card, and the students are saying A apple, A, D dog, D, A banana, S socks, and so on and so forth. Couple nice things about it being a digital card deck is all of the pictures are in color. Some of them have animation to them, and it's very easy to shuffle the card deck. Let me go back real quick and show you how that's done. So if you click on transition, you'll see here I have all these cards fading in. So you can just move these around. And so there you've quickly changed the order that the cards are going to be brought in. So a really nice feature. These next three slides, word wall, rhymes, and nonsense words, I've decided to include in my lessons after reading the Equipped for Reading Success book. David Kilpatrick talks a little bit about the importance of maybe having a word wall with the concepts and terms that you're teaching your students and reviewing that. Um, so here I just click and they see a word that we've already has already been introduced. So here they would tell me phonemes or sounds. Graphemes are the letter or letters that represent the sounds. A vowel in a closed syllable is short, code it with a breve. A suffix can be one letter or a group of letters added to the end of a base word. We code it with a box. Then we do a few rhymes every lesson. So here they're just reading it as the words come in: add, at, asked, and. Sometimes I might even include a little bit more and have the student read the rhyme, but then I might say, add l to the front, have them, and they would recite land, change l to sand, and then nonsense words. Kilpatrick suggests having them read 4 to 5 nonsense words, each day. So I'm just clicking and the students are reading the word nonsense words as they come in. I love the nonsense word slide because I can glean so much about a student and where they're at developmentally. If I have a student that's still blending each sound together versus a student that reads the word nad quickly, obviously that's going to give me a lot of information about where they're at and the type of support that's still needed for each student. The other nice thing about these digital slides is that these can be changed out really easily. If you're not ready for words with blends, then you can delete this word and just type in the new nonsense word that you want. This next slide is discovery of a phoneme grapheme relationship slide. Here, the teacher would have her lesson plan page in front of her. And this is sort of like if you're familiar with OG programs, they have typically an auditory visual discovery. So the teacher is asking students to isolate a sound, a similar sound in a group of words, and then reveals the words so that students are matching the phoneme to the grapheme. Then they follow that up with a riddle. So the students love the riddle part. I will click to bring in a clue for a total of 3 clues, and they're trying to figure out what the answer to the riddle is going to be. And they know that it either is going to begin with the target sound that we just discovered, in this case, the sound, or it's going to have that sound somewhere in the word, and they get to see if their thinking was correct or their guess was correct. Then we have a discussion about this new sound. Here we sometimes will be using our mirror. We're looking at our mouth to see what's happening. We're determining whether the sound is a blocked sound by your tongue, teeth, or lips, if it's voiced or unvoiced, and then we use that information to determine that it's a consonant sound. The word attack slides then take us into where we're actually going to be coding words. So I follow the I do, we do, you do method. So students at this point have their reading practice page in front of them with a pencil or a pen, and they know that I'm going to model this first one through a think aloud. So I'm going to find my vowel and I'm going to check to see if there's a consonant coming after it. So then I'm going to code it, and I can see that this pattern is a closed syllable pattern. So the vowel will have a breve and it will make the short sound. It will say I. So now I'm ready to blend those sounds together. I'm going to put these first 2 sounds together, and when I'm ready, I'm going to say it. Hid, hid. Now is the we do. So students have their pencil. They're going to code the word on their paper, and we're going to talk through it together. We know this is a closed syllable, so the A will say ah. prepare to read the word. We're going to say had, had, and then finally, this is a you do. So here the students working on this independently, and then they can look up to check from their paper to see if they coded it correctly. Then we're all ready to blend. So we're going to read hat, hat. Now we move on to what's the absolute favorite for all my kids, which is mystery word. So I really wanted to find a way to make sure that my students were practicing these rows or lists of words and making sure that they weren't just, if they're doing it silently, it was really hard for me to know, well, if I have a group of 6 students, are they all reading the word? So this, I know without a doubt that they're practicing the word because they all want to guess the mystery word correctly. So at this point, I will give them what I call the freebie or a free clue. So I click to reveal a part of a picture, and in order for me to reveal a second clue, a student has to volunteer to read the words, and there's never a shortage of volunteers. They all want to read the words. So, hid, had, hat. Then I reveal a second clue. And at this point, they either are going to determine what they believe to be the mystery word, so they'll circle it on their paper, or they'll wait it out for the third and final clue. So at this point, I'll have a student volunteer to read the words in reverse order: hat, had, hid, and I click, give them their final clue. They know they have to decide on a word before the timer expires, and the rest of the black squares go away and the mystery word is revealed, and cheers every time. We move on to the second row. Depending on how much coding you're having your students do, depending on what their needs are, some of my kids will, be able to read the words without coding them. And so then I will just quickly click through this slide. If a student's still not to that point yet, then we're going through it together and they're coding it on their paper. We're deciding what type of syllable each of the words is. So in this case, they would say they're closed syllables because they match this card. And so each of the vowels will make its short sound. So now we're ready to do our blending again. His, his, and so on and so forth. And then they get to their second mystery slide. So this will go on. Usually, each reading practice page will have 4 rows with 3 words in it. So I'm going to move beyond that. There's the 4th one. Let me just click through this one. Mystery words is also a great time for vocabulary work. Another thing that I found through my experience over the years of working with students is just really a need for more vocabulary. They oftentimes will get to the point where they can code the words and successfully blend the sounds together, but have no meaning for the word. They don't know what a word means. So sometimes I will work to choose my mystery word very carefully and choose a word that they may not know the meaning of. So then I'm able to supply them with a picture and we might, talk a little bit about it. Someone in the group might say, well, I know what that is, and so on and so forth. This reading in a snap page is now we're going from reading, coding the words, reading, blending the sounds together, reading them in isolation. Now their purpose is to read it in a snap. So I click, a volunteer will read the words hid, had, hat. And this is another great way for me to assess which students are still like blending words or maybe reading it onset rhyme versus students who are recognizing and reading these words with automaticity. After the reading in a snap, We do this particular lesson has a word search. So there are a few different types of lessons in here that are geared more towards trying to break bad habits of guessing at words, or looking at the first letter or the last letter and then making a guess. I'm wanting to find ways for students to be forced to look at the internal structure of the words. And so here they're, having to really look through each word, HAS, and they love it. So they're circling the words on their paper. I usually give them just a few minutes to do this part, and this lesson actually has a review for the floss rule, meaning that the floss rule was already introduced in a previous lesson. So here we're just reviewing. I like to add these in just depending on if I'm working with a student who just hasn't grasped it yet and needs more practice. So then I can easily cut and paste from one lesson to another lesson to give the students more practice. So we walk through this together. They have this on their paper and they're either drawing circles or, writing an X or a check mark, but they're doing it along with me. Then we get to mapping the new sound. So our new sound was, and we discuss here, if you use something like scientific spelling, you can have them turn in their scientific spelling notebook to the page with the sound and go through and read what the pattern says. There's only one way to spell that sound, so they'll just have an H on the scientific spelling page. And then we click in to show that the only way to spell is with the letter H, and it's going to be in one box because it makes one sound. Then we go through and spell. So here the teacher again would need to have the lesson plan page handy because it's going to show you the list of words that we're spelling. You use, whatever format or technique, SOS, whatever you use with your kids. I will, say the word and then have them echo it back. We will tap out the sounds, then we name the letter that represents the sound. They write it in each box, and then we write the whole word, and so on and so forth. Another nice thing about digital lessons is that if you want to change the words that you're using for spelling, or you want to add more words, in that case, in this situation, I only had two. So, because I'm also doing a dictation. So, if you want to do more, you can easily add more words to the lesson. Then we end with a dictation. So we were spelling words in isolation. And now, of course, we're going to do something a little more taxing, and that is to write a whole sentence. So we go through our dictation process, and then they're allowed to check their thinking or their work as I click in each word in reverse order. And that's the end of this lesson. This lesson does not have decodable sentences or passages. Those begin at about lesson 17. And at that point, each lesson pretty much will have either decodable sentences or decodable story passage to read. Thank you for hanging with me, sticking through to the end. Sorry, it kind of was a little bit longer than what I wanted it to be. But please, if you have any questions or find an error or a suggestion on a way to make something better, please reach out to me via email. I would love for you to follow me to get any updates as to when I'm adding more lessons. And I hope you have a great day.